You see they're dry. You see there's no marrow in the bone. You see they're scattered all over the valley. They ain't even full skeletons. I mean, the bones are scattered all over the valley. They're just bones. But answer me a question, Ezekiel. Can these bones live? Ezekiel answers the only way he knows how to answer. Lord, you know. Critical race theory was born out of critical legal theory. Am I teaching y'all something today? There emerged two common beliefs linking all critical race theories. First, white supremacy has subordinated black people and other people of color. That's just a fact. How in the world are you going to fight against that being taught in any school? White supremacy has subordinated black people and other people of color. That's a fact. Why don't you want that to be taught in school? You let your schools teach us that Columbus discovered America. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that George Washington couldn't tell a lie. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that some slave owners were beneficent and good slave owners. There were no good slave owners. Anybody who owned people was evil. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that Abraham Lincoln was good for Negroes. No, Abraham Lincoln was trying to save the Union. And Abe Lincoln himself said if he could save the Union and keep black people in chains, he would do it. That's a lie. Come on, somebody. You let them teach us about a white Jesus. You let them teach us that Native Americans were the aggressors. Come on, somebody. That white folk had a manifest destiny and that the pilgrims were good and Native Americans. That's a lie. All day, every day, you let them teach us lies. All throughout my history in school, I was taught lies. But you got a problem with critical race theory because it teaches the truth that white supremacy has subordinated black people and people of color. The right to bear arms. Let me just back up a little bit and let me take you on back to the late 1960s when Ronald Reagan was the governor of California. And they were oppressing black folk, and a group of men and women known as the Black Panther Party decided that they were going to defend the rights of black folk. And the Black Panthers decided that the Second Amendment wasn't just for white folk. So they strapped themselves with guns and showed up at the Capitol in California. And when they saw them Negroes with guns, come on, somebody. That's why I say if you ever really want to get gun laws changed, just strap all these Negroes up. They'll change them laws before the week is over. When the Black Panthers, watch this, I want you to read, the California legislator passed what was called the Mulford Act. It was a gun control act that decided who could get guns, who couldn't get guns, what could be in your background, what couldn't be in your background. It was the first time in history that the National Rifle Association, the NRA, supported restrictive gun legislation, all because black folk had the nerve to get strapped. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, go get strapped. Amen, somebody. Y'all gonna say Bishop told us to get strapped. I said it. Go get strapped. It just got real quiet up in here. But y'all already know I'm a triple P. Amen. Y'all know what a triple P is, right? A pistol packing preacher. Amen, somebody.
Thank you, Jesus. Lodabar. Your work's not done just because you made it to the palace. Oh, bless the name of the Lord. But you've got a responsibility to help somebody else make it across. Thank you, Jesus. Don't pull up the ladder because you climbed to the top. Don't blow up the bridge because you made your way across. Thank you, Jesus. But reach your hand back down the ladder and pull somebody else up out of Lodabar. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Somebody got to tell themselves, it's all right if you got it now, just hold it for me. I'll be there to get it after a while. Oh, bless the name of the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. You got to make up in your mind that what God has for me, it is for me. I might not have it right now. I may not get it next week. You might try to stop me from getting it. But if God said it's mine, I want you to know after a while, I'm going to get what belongs to me. Sometimes God got to strip what you got so you don't depend on yourself. You got to take away from you so you understand how to depend on others. Come on here, brother. Thank you, Jesus. Our young people are dying. Cracked out. Suicide. Homicide. They'll kill you at the drop of a dime. Our jails are full. Yet the crime still runs rampant. Sometimes God got to strip what you got so you don't depend on yourself. Thank you, Jesus. Hey, I don't have no $100,000 year lost. $200,000, I got $1 billion lost. You better think that the Bible says, as a man thinks. The reason we eat is because what we think we are. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
90.7 WTCC. Good morning. Welcome to the Spoken Word. I'm your host, Bishop Talbert Swan, the second
And as usual, we'll be telling it like it is through cultural idioms and nuances that shape the order, ethos, and chaos of the African American experience. Words have their own vitality. They shape their own consciousness and create their own context for interpreting social and spiritual reality. The spoken word contains the power to reshape the landscape of society. It is 6 minutes. 6 minutes. 6 minutes, Dougie Fresh. It's 6 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. And I want to thank Mr. Kenneth Barnett for bringing us the promise from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Listen, you want to start out a Monday morning on the good foot, then you need to tune in to Mr. Kenneth Barnett and the promise every Monday morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., bringing you the best in gospel music. Good way to start out your Monday morning, a great way to start out your week. And it's been a crazy week. It's been a crazy week. Stuff we need to talk about, family, particularly this Supreme Court ruling that while we were in the middle of grieving for our dearly departed brothers and sisters in Buffalo, while we were shocked at what happened in Uvalde, Texas, and the police just kind of standing still and allowing children to be slaughtered. While we were dealing with all of that, the Supreme Court was making a ruling, and this ruling should shock you. This ruling should shock you. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about a couple other Supreme Court votes and rulings that ought to give you pause, that ought to make you concerned. And you know, I know people often think that I'm being hyperbolic when I say things like the next stop for this Supreme Court is to put us back in slavery. I'm not being hyperbolic. I really am. I really am not. I'm dead serious. I am dead serious. I do not put anything beyond this Supreme Court. And you ought not put anything beyond this Supreme Court. Listen, I'm going to tell you, brothers and sisters, I said something recently that was controversial to all of my haters. I said that whiteness is an unrelenting demonic force of evil. And of course, you know, they took it the way that they wanted it to be because they wanted to have something to complain about. Let's talk about whiteness as a concept, whiteness, white supremacy, etc. They, of course, tried to make it seem like I was saying all white people are from the devil. There's some of them that are. There's no doubt about it. But of course, I was not talking about that. I was talking about whiteness. And please do not underestimate the resolve of white supremacy. Okay? You know, when I say stuff like, oh, they're trying to put us back in slavery. Oh, come on, Bishop. You know, you're being dramatic, yada, yada, yada. No. There's a lot of stuff that's happening now that y'all didn't think was going to happen. Okay? Y'all thought there was no way that would ever happen, and it did. It did. How long did they tell you the Voting Rights Act was settled law? That's settled law. It's all good. It's all good. That's settled law. Yet they gutted the Voting Rights Act. How long did they tell you that Roe v. Wade was settled law? And they're not going to change it. And yeah, that vote that got leaked out lets you know exactly where the Supreme Court is on that. And this last ruling this past week is another shocker. It's another one of those things that you all said, oh, that could never happen. Could never happen. And it did. And when I tell you that they may be coming for the 13th Amendment next, they may be coming to say the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery in this nation, is unconstitutional. You go ahead and think I'm being hyperbolic all you want. But I don't put anything beyond white supremacy. I don't put anything beyond them, especially not this court, especially not with the ruling that they just made that we're going to talk about after this break. All right. 413-337-1867 is the number here. Coming up at 10 o'clock is Justice and Flow. Stay with us. Rep your city. Rep your town. I need y'all to be putting in the chat right now where you're coming in from. I see Jefferson, Georgia in the house already. Marion, I see you. Good morning. I see Fairburn, Georgia up in the building. Come on now. Yep, they're coming for the Fair Housing Act next. I believe they're coming for all of it. For all of it. Boston is in the house. Will Dickerson, what's going on, my brother? Listen, rep your city, rep your town. Philadelphia is in here. Another Georgia is up in the. Georgia is in here deep today. Connecticut is in the house. Sacramento, California is in the house. Houston is in the house. Chicago is in the house. Baltimore, Maryland, up on Instagram. Houston is in the house. Springdale, Maryland is in the house. Welcome everybody who's up in here with me on this day. Like, share, subscribe. Let somebody know the bishop is on the air. Charlotte, North Kakalaki is up in here. Another Houston. I got Houston all over the place, okay? All right, they ain't even playing. All right, yes, California in the house. Yes, from the sunshine up in here. North Carolina back in here. Houston back in here again. Somebody must have told Houston that we were going to be on here. All right, your dad is Bishop William Dickerson, greater love. That's my friend. Amen. Tell your dad I said hello. Good morning to every single one of you. Rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're chiming in from. On the other side of this, we're going to get at it. We're going to get at it, okay? Let somebody know they need to be a part of this conversation today. All right, I got to play a little bit of Ferris here. I got to cheer you up with Don't Stop. London, England, good morning from across the ocean. Toronto, Canada is in here. Another Houston is up in here. I might have to move to Houston. I don't know, man, the way y'all showing love today. I don't know what's going on. We'll be right back. Don't go nowhere.
The essence of life is growth. But the essence of growth is change. The being in the road will be the end of the road if you refuse to change.
A little higher, a little higher, dig a little deeper, dig a little deeper, go a little further, go a little further. Come on, come on. A little higher, come on, yeah. Dig a little deeper, dig a little deeper, go a little further, go a little further. Come on, don't stop. The essence of life is growth. But the essence of growth is change. The being in the road will be the end of the road if you refuse to change. Your life will never change until you get disgusted with where you are. Whatever you don't hate is what you tolerate. You must learn from the past, plan for the future, and live for today. For it is your daily routine that determines your success or failure in life. It's the choices that you have made up until this point that will determine the rest of your life. So break the cycle that doing enough is simply good enough. You only get out what you put in, so don't settle for the crumbs when you can have a whole loaf. So push yourself beyond your limitations. Come on. Reach a little higher. Reach a little higher. Get a little deeper. Dig a little deeper. A little further. Don't stop. Come on. Reach a little higher. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Go a little further. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. So you gotta break the routine of trying to beat the system. Manipulators will always try to bypass the process for the quick progress. There are no shortcuts to success. There are no elevators to the top. You gotta take it one step at a time. You gotta break the routine of allowing others to get into your head and control who you are and where you're going. You see, when you're about the positive, you're gonna always have haters. But don't let your haters push you down, let your haters push you forward to the next level. So when people show you who they really are, don't perceive them to be something else that they're not. See, a zebra does not change his stripes. So you gotta keep pushing yourself to the next level. Yeah, there you go. Come on. Be a little deeper. Come on. Yeah. Go a little further. Go a little further. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Reach a little higher. Reach a little higher. Be a little deeper. Be a little deeper. Go a little further. Go a little further. Come on. Come on. Come on. You gotta understand that greatness is the nature that you were born out of. You'll never discover your greatness without hard work and dedication. Greatness says more about who you are and what you expect for yourself. And greatness will always attract greatness. Show me your friends and I'll show you the future. The future. You just a step away. You just a step away. You just a step away. Don't ever give up. Come on. You just a step away. You're almost there. Come on. You gotta push yourself beyond your limitations. You see, there's no mountain too high, no valley too low. You can go where you want to go. It's all in the power of your imagination. If you can see the invisible, you can do.
Don't give up.
Impossible. So stretch yourself.
Don't give up.
Take yourself to the next level. Come on, come on, come on. It's a little higher. Be a little deeper.
Go a little further.
Come on, come on, come on. Come on. Reach a little
Yes. Reach a little higher, fam. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Don't stop.
Come on.
Right around the corner, there's a blessing waiting on you.
Come on. Blessings are coming your way.
Right around the corner. Yes. Right around the corner.
Don't stop. Don't stop until you get your dream.
Donovan Keith, thank you for the badge. Those of you that are on the gram, you can buy a badge and support. Appreciate you.
Until you get your dream. Don't stop. Get your dream. Come on. Yes. Don't stop. Come on. Come on. Come on. Go. Go. Go.
Appreciate you, my brother. All right, I like what I see.
In the mirror, and I like what I see.
We finna talk about it.
Beautiful black woman staring back at me. One who's seen a lot of pain and had her share of sorrow, but who never gave up hope for a brighter tomorrow. I've been lied to, cheated on, and stolen from a great team, but it just made me stronger, and I refuse to quit. That's right. And though I've been tempted, I refuse to stoop to their level. I rose above that nonsense and made a liar of the devil. All right now. The devil who said I wasn't good enough, cute enough, or worthy of love, I kicked his butt with divine power from above. Power that says I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me and brought me out of darkness so that I can see that I'm smart, I'm beautiful. I'm a child of the king. Abundant love for me, he came to bring. Oh yes, when I look in the mirror, I love what I see. She's looking good. That strong, beautiful black woman, that woman is me.
All right, 90.7 WTCC. Good morning to everybody in the Pioneer Valley that is tuned in. Congratulations goes out to my colleague in the struggle, Sister Tanisha Sullivan, fellow NAACP president from the Boston branch, who won the Democrat nomination for Secretary of State here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. First time a black woman has gotten the nod for a statewide office like that. I know all of you Delta sisters are proud. So congratulations out to Tanisha on that accomplishment. Good morning to everybody who's up in the building today. Chesapeake, Virginia is up in here. Um, um, good morning. My daughter Whitney is on here. I'm sure my grandbabies are around here too. Thank you, Joseph Hill, for sharing. Do me a favor, share. North Carolina in the house. You should have hit that like button by now. If you haven't on Facebook, hit it right now. Click it. Click that like button on Facebook and on YouTube and anywhere else where there is one. Subscribe. Do all of that kind of stuff. Listen. Let's just take a trip down memory lane. Let's go back to 2013. Okay, 2013. And we need to go back to 2013 because you need to see the history of this. This was during the Obama administration when 35 Republican attorney generals across the country. And this is why statewide offices are important. Everybody focuses on the Congress. They focus on the Senate, the House of Reps, and the White House. You need to be focusing on these statewide offices in your state, like my sister Tanisha Sullivan, who's nominated for the Secretary of State here in the Commonwealth. Attorney generals, 35 Republicans across the country, filed with the Supreme Court against the Voting Rights Act, basically saying that the Voting Rights Act was unconstitutional, that the formula, there was a formula in Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act that determined what states, what cities and towns, what counties fell under the Voting Rights Act. And if they fell under the Voting Rights Act, there was something called pre-clearance. That meant before they could pass any laws or make any policies that affected voting, it had to be cleared by the Department of Justice. Say, for instance, Georgia, this crazy law they have now where you can't even give people water who are standing in line. They could have never done that if the Voting Rights Act was in effect, because Georgia fell under the pre-clearance. And the reason these cities, towns, municipalities fell under pre-clearance is because they had a history of suppressing black people's votes. And because of that history, they had to be monitored. So none of them could get away with passing these voter ID laws and changing the polling locations. That crazy thing they did in Texas were making 13 million people have one voting box, for early voting, shutting down Sunday voting, all that stuff. They could have never done that if the Voting Rights Act was in effect. So what the Supreme Court did, it said the formula that determined what cities and towns had to meet pre-clearance standards was antiquated, so they gutted Section 4. See, they were slick. They didn't altogether say the Voting Rights Act is unconstitutional. They said Section 4 was unconstitutional. The formula that determined who fell under the Voting Rights Act. Section 5 was the enforcement. That's what allowed the DOJ to come in and say, no, you can't do that. But now that Section 4 has been gutted, no state, no municipality, no city, no town falls under the Voting Rights Act. So if there's no town, city, or municipality that falls under the Voting Rights Act, there is no enforcement. The DOJ can't come in anywhere and say, you can't do that. So in essence, they gutted the Voting Rights Act of 1965. They did that in 2013. It is 2022, 9 years later. And this is what my frustration with Democrats are. Give us the House, give us the Senate, we'll fix everything. They haven't even tried to fix the Voting Rights Act. And so y'all talk about it as a part of the civil rights history, and it is, without realizing it's not even in effect anymore. It's not even in effect anymore. Which is why all of these states can pass these draconian voting laws and policies, purging voter rolls and changing voter locations, shutting down early voting, telling people you can't give water to old people who are standing in line. The reason they can do that is because the Voting Rights Act is no longer in effect. I need y'all to understand what happened. That happened 9 years ago. That's the reason why they are able to do all this stuff around voting and suppressing our votes, because there is no enforcement of the VRA. Let me say it again. There is no enforcement of the Voting Rights Act. Everybody said, oh, that's settled law. They're never going to touch that. That's Martin Luther King Jr. And see, when these crazy white supremacists on MLK Day, start giving all these platitudes about MLK, they're fake. They're fake. Because everything MLK lived for, breathed for, died for, okay? They're against. All these conservatives all over the nation were gung-ho about gutting the Voting Rights Act. But come January 15th, oh, praise God for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Doggone hypocrites. That's what the Supreme Court did. Fast forward to Trump administration, and Trump having the opportunity to appoint 3 Supreme Court justices. Not only that, but to stack the federal courts all over the country. Stack it all over the country. So now they have a 6-3 super majority. And without Roe v. Wade even coming before them, even being appealed to them from a lower court, They secretly met and ruled on Roe v. Wade. Then they said, well, it might not, go that way. It may not be the official ruling, but you already wrote an opinion. It got leaked. They wrote the opinion on Roe v. Wade, something that folks said was settled law. Settled law. Now, let me tell you what they did. While we were grieving the horrific mass murder of black people in Buffalo, while we were horrified at the police in Uvalde, Texas, standing outside for nearly 70 minutes while a mass shooter shot little children in the face and murdered them. When a mother had to bust through barricades and avoid police and went in the building and saved her 2 children. The cops let babies die. While we were in the midst of all of that trauma, the Supreme Court came up with a shameful opinion. And of course, it broke down along ideological lines. The right wingers ruled 6-3. Watch this. That people who have ineffective counsel, that when there is evidence of innocence, when there's evidence of innocence, when new evidence is presented to prove their innocence in federal court, it is inconsequential. That they should not be entitled to present that new evidence to prove their innocence. And even when it has been presented, it is not enough to overturn a death sentence. I want you to understand. That's the short synopsis of it. I want you to understand what I'm saying. They ruled that if Talbert Swan was wrongfully convicted, I had ineffective counsel, I was wrongfully convicted and put on death row, and my execution date is approaching, and there's new evidence that can prove I'm innocent. They're saying basically, well, that doesn't have to be considered. That the state can still put me to death. Doesn't matter if I'm innocent or not. They can still put me to death. And this flies in the face. Those of you who, have any knowledge of the legal system, the Sixth Amendment gives you a right to counsel, to effective counsel. Okay? But people who are innocent can still be subjected to capital punishment, according to this Supreme Court, which is going to leave many people who were convicted in violation of the Sixth Amendment to face incarceration and even execution without any meaningful chance to vindicate their right to counsel. Sonia Sotomayor wrote the dissent She said that the court basically hamstrings the federal court's authority to safeguard the right to counsel and reduces it to rubble. This centered around the case of Barry Jones. In 1994, he was charged with murdering his girlfriend's 4-year-old daughter, Rachel Gray. The prosecution had argued that Rachel died from an injury while she was in Jones's care. His trial attorney didn't perform any investigation which would have uncovered medical evidence that Rachel's fatal injury could not have progressed as rapidly as the prosecutors claim. The investigation would have shown that Rachel was injured when she wasn't in Jones's care. And since the jury never heard this evidence, they convicted Jones of murder, and the trial judge sentenced him to death. On appeal, a federal court overturned his conviction because of this ineffective counsel, because of this evidence that could have shown that he was innocent. Okay? They overturned it. And the prosecutors appealed it to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, you know what? Regardless of this evidence that could prove his innocence, Arizona can still put him to death. They can still put him to death. Now, think about this. Think about this. The Supreme Court of the United States of America ruled that people who are wrongfully convicted, regardless of whether there's evidence that can prove their innocence, can still be incarcerated or put to death. Let me ask you a question. What do you think the majority of the people who are wrongfully convicted look like? Who do you think they look like? They look kind of like me. Like you. They're black. Who do you think this ruling is going to affect disproportionately? It's going to affect us. It's going to affect us. It's going to affect us. And see, this is what I'm saying. This is why I told you earlier that that when I talk about going back to slavery, I'm not being hyperbolic. A Supreme Court that'll say, the heck with the Voting Rights Act. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of Roe v. Wade. Let's get rid of the right to counsel. Let's get rid of that too. Let's get rid of people's right to present evidence that proves their innocence. Let's get rid of that. And y'all think it's an impossible jump to get rid of the 13th Amendment? That this Supreme Court, with its demented, evil ideology, will not say, you know what? If people want to have slaves, they should be able to. Y'all think it's beyond them. I don't. I don't. Not based on the things that they're doing right in front of our face. And here's the thing. This is what evangelical Christians wanted. 81% that voted for Trump because they knew he would give them the type of Supreme Court justices that would make these type of rulings. This is what the pro-life segment wanted. Where is the outcry from the pro-lifers? Think about it. How are you going to be pro-life and have nothing to say about the Supreme Court just ruling that innocent people could be put to death? Think about that for a minute. Let me get Miss Lisa in the Twitter space. Miss Lisa, unmute your mic. You're in the space. Think about that. These are the pro-life Christians who have nothing to say about the Supreme Court saying it's okay to murder innocent people. Ms. Lisa, you're in the Twitter space. Unmute your mic. All right, maybe Ms. Lisa went to get her a cup of coffee or something. So we'll get back to her. Let me bring in, I am not Johnny Vegas. Okay, you're in the Twitter space. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Unmute your mic.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
I'm in the UK, okay?
All right, welcome from the UK.
Thank you. I'd just like to say, and it's just a short point, but slavery has never been abolished.
You're correct. You're correct. The 13th Amendment left the caveat that anybody convicted of a felony was actually still a slave.
We're all slaves to the system, aren't we? We're all slaves to the system. The system now call it minimum wage. We're slaves to a system. They control our spending. They control our income. They control everything.
Yeah.
You know, how many, I don't know, but how many rich American families employ maids, gardeners, you know, and they think they're doing good for the economy. Those gardeners, maids are probably on minimum wage.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I'd like to say. We're all slaves to the system.
All right.
I just hope America can sort itself out.
All right.
But the whole world is going through some change, isn't it?
Yeah, and I agree. America needs to sort itself out, but the UK needs to sort itself out too. The UK,
most definitely.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you. But this country, in my 53 years on this earth, I've seen Labour in power, Conservatives in power. Conservative will always be for the rich.
Yeah.
Well, they will always be for the own well-off people.
Absolutely.
Because they don't. You know why? Because they don't know any different. This is my thinking of it. They don't know any different. They are born into it.
That's the life that they live.
For me, that's where the white privilege comes from. Because when you're born into wealth, money, all that what comes with it.
Well, let me say this as well. Let me say this.
You don't understand how the real people live.
But let me say this as well, because it's not just rich white folks that benefit from white privilege. Poor white folks do as well. I understand your point, definitely. But white privilege, here's what white privilege is. And see, poor white folks will all say, well, I don't, where's my white privilege? I'm not rich. I don't have it easy. I struggle. You know, white privilege is not that you won't struggle. It's not that you won't be mistreated. It's not that you won't be treated unfairly. It's not that you won't have challenges in life. White privilege is that you won't be treated unfairly, you won't have challenges, and you won't struggle because you're white. That's what it is. It won't happen to you because you're white. All of that will happen to black people simply because they're black. That's what white privilege is all about. Let me get borderline psychotic. I don't know if I okay, you can speak now. Your name got me concerned, but go ahead. You're in the Twitter space.
No, don't worry about it, brother. I'm gonna be real cool. I know you're on the radio.
All right.
You know what this brings up for me is what I'm talking about a lot on these spaces, and that is when we speak about reparations. One of the main things we need is our protections, because just by history, white people have been proven unable to ethically, morally rule over black people.
Mm-hmm.
They should not even have the chance. See, when we talk about white supremacy, it is a system that is allowed to be integrated individually.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a big memorandum that goes out to all white people on how to be racist. It just means as a white person, when you wake up in the morning, whatever the hell you decide to do to black people, that's what you can do. Whether it be on your job, whether you're their waiter, whether you're the police officer, whether you're the nurse, whether you're the court clerk, whether you're anything that has to do with black people, white people have been proven to be unable to do that within the law.
Mm-hmm.
So we are at the point now where what's going on here needs to be called what it is. It's a literal genocide that is happening in modern day times. And the fact that people don't look at it that way is the problem. Like, imagine people going to Germany while the Jews were being burned to better their life. Right? Because that's what happens. Immigrants come over here while there's literally a genocide going on to better their life. Like, they're coming over here, they're doing things, and they get to send money back to their family, but we getting shot in the back of the heads. Our housing is being undervalued. Our cities are still being underfunded. Our school, like, everything about black people
and then
the same way it was in 1965. So,
and then on top of what you said, white folks in America will have all of this empathy and concern for what Russians are doing to Ukrainians, but don't give a hamburger about what's happening in state-sanctioned violence and lynching of black people right here in what Maya Angelou called these yet-to-be United States of America. They will stand totally against any form of reparations to the descendants of enslaved Africans, but they don't have any problem with sending 50 billion American taxpayer dollars over to Ukraine.
And that's just one allocation of money. We won't talk about all the money they spend.
Go right ahead. Continue. All right. Did I lose you in the space?
Um,
There you go.
it, for me, it becomes a sick a sick thing that that black people are living in, and we wonder why we have so much division. We wonder why there's the black woman, black man divide. There's a divide between black elders and black young. Like there's a divide between every black that you can think of. You got black conservatives, you got black Republicans, you got black Christians, you got black atheists, you got black everything. But in the end of it all, we are still treated exactly like you said, our slaves. And until we stand up and demand that that stops happening, I mean, it's just going to keep happening. Yes, I've been saying this forever that they could put us back in slavery.
Yeah, but see, people think that's just talk. Like I said, they think. Listen, you're going too far, Bishop. That's never going to happen. I don't underestimate the resolve of white supremacy.
Well, not especially when you see how the youth is acting, right? The boy was 18 that just went in there and shot at the people in the supermarket.
Right.
Now, he's one who shoots, but guess what? There's another racist white boy who's not going to shoot. He's just going to go to work and he's going to make your life hell.
All right, let me get
or makes up lies about. These are all the things that we have to deal with individually as black people. Like it's not just one thing. Like I'll say this to black people right now: do you really feel safe going out and ordering food out to eat? Do you really trust white people to make your food right now? Like that's something you got to think of. An 18-year-old that went and shot up them people, that's the 18-year-old that is spitting your eggs back there while they're making up your food at home.
Oh my goodness!
Like, these are the things that we really have to think about as we start to navigate in this, in this new millennium. Like this, it's crazy out here that this is, that we're living under atrocities while being told about atrocities elsewhere.
Right, absolutely. I appreciate you, brother. Great insight. Great insight. Thank you so much. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Thanks. Good morning. I'm going to make a short comment about white privilege. In my own personal lives, my brother and I used to travel a lot and still do. And there's two of us. He's the lighter looking, the light skinned person, and I'm the dark person. I'm the better looking of the two.
Okay. If you do say so yourself.
We used to fly a lot. I would sit in first class sometimes. And he noticed that he would get served first. And I would have the window seat and he would have the aisle seat. And still, even among the black flight attendants, it would happen. They were served, and he would get very angry about it. And because we're different shades of color, we're from the same family, but it show you that a situation of white privilege is subconscious. It's embedded in American society. It's embedded in American psychic. And
you know what else? And you know what else?
That's a small example I wanted to make.
And you know what else? To your point, it even happens with black people. I've been in situations where I've been standing at the counter first. White folks will walk up, and a black employee will go right over to the white folks and say, "How can I help you?" And I'll have to interrupt and say, "Yeah, you need to help me first because I was here 10 minutes before they got here." But automatically,
it's embedded in the American psychic culture. That's all I wanted to say.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right, appreciate your call. 413-337-1867. 5 minutes before we transition to Justice and Flow. Jules Howard, you're in the Twitter space. Holler at me. Unmute your mic.
Hello, Mr. Swan. Good morning.
Good morning.
That's my phone ringing in the background, man. Look, I just want to let you know that when football season comes back, it's on because I dislike Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay. All right. Well, it's basketball season right now, and so we're rooting for the Celtics at the moment. And we'll get back to the Steelers. We'll get to the Steelers when it comes up. But but they're gonna beat the Ravens no matter what they do. I just want you to know that. Yeah. All right. All right. Appreciate you, brother. Let me see if I can get some more folks. Alexander, let me get you in here. You're in the Twitter space. Unmute your mic. You got the floor. All right. I thought I got Alexander up in there, but all right. Let me get Brian's granny up in here. Good morning, caller.
Can you hear me?
1 second, Brian. 1 second, Brian. Go right ahead, caller.
Yeah, I want to just talk a little, shed a little bit of light on the Ordinance Act. When it was established in '65, it had to be reestablished in 10 years. Whoever was in office signed the bill to get it going again. And then in '82, they made it 7 years, and then in 1992,
right,
it was 15 years, and I believe in 2006 they bumped it up to.
See what a lot of people don't realize is the point you're making right now. These civil rights laws came into effect with sunset clauses. You're absolutely right. When the Voting Rights Act was signed into law, it had a 10-year sunset clause, which meant it had to be reassessed and renewed over and over again. It was never to be permanent. And that's the thing that people don't understand is they never wanted the rights for black folks to be permanent. They wanted to always be able to reassess them. So the Supreme Court gutting them is no surprise. Thank you so much for your call. All right, you're in the Twitter space, Alexander. Go right ahead.
A couple of quick things. So the whole entire situation with the Supreme Court, the legal argument used for Roe v. Wade is the same legal argument that was used for interracial marriage, for the ability to use birth control, for marriage equality. So if they get rid of Roe v. Wade, I bet you $1 million that literally all those other rights will go away. They will, and that's all used to pivot, like you said, onto the 13th Amendment. They could eventually come back and say, yeah, we're going to go ahead and overturn that and allow slavery back or whatever. In addition, this is something I want everybody to pay attention to because I don't think enough people are paying attention. We have an existential threat to the concept of this country in its totality. And what I mean by that is this. If the Democrats don't act in a radical way, meaning get rid of the filibuster, put in more Supreme Court justices, that's it. If they don't do it now, they'll never be able to do it in the future. And this is a really important point because the light being shown here is this. Democrats and Republicans are faces and the head and tails of the same coin, right?
Yep.
They're in it together.
Two wings on the same bird.
To help anybody.
Yeah. Two wings on the same bird. Absolutely correct.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's why, I was having this conversation with my sister and I got her points, when she was talking about the Supreme Court and Trump being able to put 3 in, and yes, the Democrats, they screw up, but the alternative is so terrible if Republicans get back in. And my point is, we've got to challenge the Democrats to do. So if you're really supposed to be for the people, then you would because trust me, if the tables were flipped and there was a 6-3 liberal majority on the court and Republicans had the House, the Senate, and the White House, you better believe they would have got rid of that filibuster and stacked that court 100%. Already.
100%. That's the whole entire thing. People, I don't understand. People are like, well, the Democrats are just trying to play nice. I'm like, no, they're not. They're complicit in what's happening. This is a dog and pony show. They don't give a damn because they're all getting paid by the same people. Who are the people contributing to their campaigns? It's not me and you. It's big corporations. The whole entire Citizens United has literally raped this country.
It has purchased our elections. It has bought every politician. Absolutely correct. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. I got to transition from one show to another show. I got to go from the spoken word to justice and flow. So those of you who are on social media, rock with me for a while. Rock with me. Stay with me. We're in the house. For those of you who are listening on WTCC, you want to come on over to the social media side. But otherwise, until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember God loves you, and so do I. We'll be back. Stay with us. What's happening? What's good? What's good? What's good? I can't hear you. You got to be unmuted. There you go. I don't know what you were saying. I was moving, but wasn't nothing. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? I didn't. Well, yeah, that Supreme Court ruling is crazy. I mean, and that happened right in the middle of our grieving of Buffalo and all of that, and they actually ruled that evidence of innocence is not enough for the federal court to hear and overturn a death conviction. So we don't really care if you're innocent or not. They gave Arizona the right to put a man that is likely innocent to death.
So I listened to this show. On the Clay Kane has this show called Exonerated, and I believe he won an award recently. I don't exactly know, but the name of the award that he won recently, but he won an award recently for for broadcasting and for doing the show. But one of the things that I heard him say, and let me also tell you how he does the show. So every Wednesday afternoon, he ends his show with an interview by someone who was convicted, and most of them were convicted, and placed on death row or had been in prison for like a number of years, that decades. I think like the uh, one of the ones with the lowest numbers was probably the guy that he interviewed the week before last, and I think he was about 18 years or something like that. 18, 19 years. It's usually way higher than that. Probably the lower number was more around 26 years. We've heard 34, 40 something. It's just been crazy. But one of the things that Clay said on his show was that it's crazy to him how many people that he could interview on his show. Like, in other words, this show could go on and on and on and on and on, and even if he did it every day, he still wouldn't interview everybody. And the fact of the matter is, these are the people who were blessed enough, right? We're blessed enough to get a team of lawyers together, or an organization like the justice organization. I forget the name of it. Oh God.
You got the Innocence Project and a number of other.
And a number of others, right? But they were blessed enough to one of these organizations to attach themselves to these innocent people that have been in prison for a number of years, right? So anyway, when I think about them, and like I said, that's one of the shows that I like to listen to every week from week to week, because it's always traumatizing, but it's always fascinating to me that this is happening on a regular basis here in this country, and it's been going on for as long as it has. And then again, to hear somebody like Clay who's trying to expose these people, to us, and let us know that this is happening and not to sleep on it. And then today, hearing you talk, babe, I didn't. All I could think about was us, our children,
Mm-hmm,
our grandchildren.
mm-hmm.
I even thought about the fact that our grandbaby, our grandson, our oldest, grandson, my number one grandson, that he's on the spectrum. And and I just thought, he could easily be in a situation where he's misunderstood or not understanding what's going on. And just the fact, that he could be innocently, unjustly, thrown in jail or prison or traumatized in that way, and then not have any recourse, is making me very upset, and making me very emotional, because at the very least, hearing about all of these other organizations coming to the defense of some of these innocent people that are in prison, but they can't get a hold of everybody, knowing that there are many more innocent people, in prison, in jail, suffering, that they won't be able to get to. That's one thing. But not to have any hope, after this, is just crazy to me. And then, I heard somebody say this recently, and I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best to move forward, making sure that I never say white supremacy anymore, because that's kind of an oxymoron, especially in this state. And what I mean by that, when you say supremacy, like that's one of the names that I use for God. Supremacy, supreme. There's nothing higher, nobody higher, or whatever. This is not white supremacy. This is white savagery. And I've always viewed it as savagery. White nationalism, racism, and this is like, this is what people were saying, like you were saying all along, y'all, while we were focused on Trump, while we were focused on the presidency and the vice presidency, but more so the presidency. They was getting away with making moves like this. They was getting away with making moves like this. And I'm talking about starting at the bottom, working their way up to the top, or whatever the case may be. So, to use trickery, to use savagery or whatever to get, the top office. But we were focused on that, or whatever, and screaming and hollering at that, when all of these other little things were going on at the bottom, and they were making moves with mayors and governors and lieutenant governors and AGs and, you name it.
Yeah, and the whole gutting of the Voting Rights Act was the fact that out of out of 50 states, there were 35
Mm-hmm.
Republicans that had won statewide races for attorney general.
Right,
And they're the ones who filed the case that went to the Supreme Court to gut the Voting Rights Act.
right.
And so, people don't understand how important these other
Don't.
positions are.
We don't. And so, we're behind the eight ball, like I said, and like you've always said, the Republicans are playing chess. They trying
And
to.
Democrats are playing checkers.
And we've been playing checkers by, focusing on. I mean, to be quite honest, if we knew any better, right? We would know that, the president really don't have all the power. That the power pretty much lies in the people, it lies in Congress, or whatever the case may be. Because
But
we
here's
bunk the power of the presidency, but we always think that all the power is in the president's hands, and it's not. And it's not.
right.
Far from it.
Now, what the president does have is the bully pulpit, and he can set the tone. So here's my problem. One of the callers was talking about how the Democrats need to act radically, gut the filibuster, stack the Supreme Court. They're not going to have an opportunity to do this in the future. And I said, conversely, if this were reversed and there was a 6-3 um, liberal majority on the Supreme Court making rulings that the conservatives didn't agree with, and the conservatives had the House,
Say it.
Senate, and the presidency, they
Right.
would not have hesitated to get rid of the filibuster and stack the court with their own justices. They would do it without any question.
Right. Exactly.
And so his point was the reason the Democrats won't do it is because they're in bed with the Republicans.
Right.
That that
That's definitely what it feels like. And listen,
is the same coin, two wings of the same bird. Because why else would they not, you know, act in that manner?
right. Well, no, I agree. I agree. It just seems like, and I can't disagree with you, whatever, but it do just seems like that the power that the Democrats do have, and all of the power that they do have, black folk made it happen, right? Black folk made it happen. So all of the power that they do have, we were the central, critical people and group, to certainly help give them the power that they do have, and it's very frustrating that it's not being used.
Yeah.
And not just not being used, to certainly elevate black folk, but it's not being used as Tanisha says, which I'm hoping we can play her speech from Saturday. But what Tanisha says, our democracy is under attack. Like we are at war. I hope people understand that democracy, black folks are trying to save democracy. We're not just telling you that Black Lives Matter. All right, we're telling you that Black Lives Matter, and the reason why we know it is because, and the reason why we know that the democracy is dying, is going to become obsolete, is because we're the first to feel it. Because everybody is anti-black. This system of white supremacy,
including the brown folk that's supposed to be in the black brown coalition.
right? In this system of white savagery, or whatever, in this system of white savagery, we're the ones that get it first. We're the ones that get it first because everybody is very comfortable with black folk being on the bottom. In other words, everybody is very comfortable with black folk dying. Everybody is very comfortable with black folks going to prison innocently. Everybody is very comfortable with black folk being on the very bottom, and being the ones who die the most with COVID, or being the ones who, because of health disparities and education disparities, you name it, every freaking system
Uh-oh.
killing us,
Uh-oh.
I'm just saying, and I am angry. I'm angry. I'm very, my righteous indignation is definitely at the top of what I'm feeling. And so, like I said, everybody is very comfortable with us dying. Everybody is very comfortable with us not, getting into college, or us not, feeling equity when it comes to economic empowerment. And you just name it. You just name it. It's so cumbersome. I don't think it's an area where black folk are not on the bottom, and everybody seems to be comfortable with that. And when we say something, we're the ones that's griping and complaining. Yeah, I'm griping and complaining because we all get one life to live, and I want to live my best life like I want everybody to live their best life.
Let me just there's a couple people still over here in the space, and since we've been on this topic, let me bring them up for their comments. Gwendolyn Bell, you're on deck. You got the mic.
Sorry.
Good morning. Hello.
Hello.
You're on deck. Good morning. What's on your mind? Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am blessed and highly favored. I can that young queen that we just heard. Her feelings are so palpable right now. Almost got me choked up.
Wait. That's my wife. I don't know how young she is, but she is a queen. But go ahead.
Oh my goodness. She said everything that I was feeling. I just need to tag team on her and ask God to bless and cover her. But tell her to calm down. It's all right. Use it righteously and use the right weapons. No wonder they didn't want us to read. They didn't want us to read. I see it. Everything they do it sneaky. They wait till you're sleeping. And then you wake up in the morning and they done pass some law. Now, see, you want to cover your ass on the ones who already got locked up. And now, you have the ones that you're going to prey on and they get locked up. And then when they're found innocent, they can't do nothing about it either. We just gotta stay on top of it. I'm really choked up by that young lady because I have 4 grandsons. I have 4 that walk the street, and for anyone to call me on the phone and tell me that somebody mistreated them just because you saw them and they was running down the street and give me some crazy ass excuse because my black child, my grandson was just walking down the street.
You gotta wake up. You gotta. We can't let them just keep running over us. They just run over us like a rug rain on the floor. It's palpable. My feelings are. I can feel her anger in her speaking.
Yeah.
I said, I feel exactly the way that young queen is speaking. I'm a grandmother of 9 children. I have my third grandson became a sophomore. For me to be able to say that, and then I get up in the morning, and this is what I have to hear.
Yeah.
This is what I have to hear. What these people are doing to us while we're sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
They always, you know something? I used to listen to my uncles when I was small. It's the last thing I'm gonna say. I'm 63 years old, and I used to hide and listen to my uncles speak. They would think nobody was listening to them, but I was listening.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that our ancestors had to go through for us to throw away our right, just throw it away. Don't even come out.
Yeah.
Somebody would tell me I can't give somebody some water. I wish you would tell me that.
Mm.
It's gone too far. You can't just sit and let them keep running over us, y'all. We can't. We can't keep doing it. We gotta move. I love my young people. They out there in droves. When I see them in the street, I tell them I love them. Thank you.
All right.
Getting out there in the street and putting myself on the line. I thank God for you. Thank you for doing this. Please keep ministering to the people and let them know what's going on.
All right. Appreciate you, my sister.
I thank you so much.
God bless.
Blessings to everybody. Stay mad now, but do it righteously.
All right. All right. Wow. Yeah. I feel it. I feel it in her voice. And we have a right to have that righteous indignation. We got a right to be angry. Like she said, stay mad.
Yeah, well, and it just brings up so much, man. It really does. As a woman of faith, as a believer, I hesitate to call myself a Christian because of all the connotations that come with that, right? You was talking about some of the evangelicals, and they're supposed to be Christian too. So that's the reason why I don't want to be lumped into the same group with people like that. But I've heard the argument. You've heard the argument. We've also been victims of the belief that Christians or let me find another word. Believers like us, we're Jesus followers, right? We believe in Jesus. We
Yeah,
believe,
we're Christ followers.
right? We're Christ followers. Um, that we're not supposed to, become involved in politics, and we're not supposed to be socially aware, and we're not supposed to be social activists. We've heard that argument down through the years, and of course we know that it was laced, kind of with that white nationalist or white savagery kind of thinking, and system, unfortunately, and it was trying to be passed down. We were loose from those chains, thank God we were loose from those chains, but still, there are too many of us, too many believers, too many folk that believe in God that refuse to become civilly involved and engaged. Listen, it is very important, and I ain't talking about the presidency. I ain't talking about the presidency. I'm talking about your local, your city, town, government. You need to know what's going on, who those people are. You need to be informed. Not only do you need to vote and be engaged and ready to vote, but you need to be an informed voter. I believe that the reason why there's so much apathy still in our community when it comes to voting, babe, is because it's not enough information and education about voting. It's not just, voting. It's not just pulling a ballot. It's not just saying yes to this candidate. Voting has become so complex and so convoluted, which I think is also part of the suppression. The system of suppression that's been created when it comes to voting. It is ridiculous to me how behind, just like Tanisha Sullivan said in her speech, how behind a state like Massachusetts, who's supposed to be one of the most liberal states,
liberal and progressive and all of that stuff.
right? But how behind we are when it comes to just a citizen's right, to vote. How behind we are. She stated, and I'm sure she did her research, and I'm sure that I can repeat her as a source. She stated that we're at least 50 years behind, at least 50 years behind in the ways that we can vote, let alone the philosophies, or whatever, and the accessibility, to voting, or whatever the case may be. But nevertheless, we're like 50 years behind. It is so much going on. But listen, y'all, we got an election going on this year. And if y'all are not preparing yourselves to vote, I just don't know how much y'all care about your own family. I don't know how much you care about yourselves. Because every single quality of every single aspect of life, when it comes to your quality of life, you have to vote for the person who would create the system or reinvent the system, or push equality, push racial justice, push social justice, or whatever. You have to vote for those people who have the power to make those decisions in every aspect of your life, period. So I can't hear and I can't understand how a Jesus follower, a Christ follower, is not engaged, not involved, and if you're 18 years or older, not a registered voter, and not voting every single time, it's time to vote. And that includes most importantly your local and your state elections. Period.
Let me bring Chase up in the Twitter space. Chase, unmute your mic. You got the floor. Unmute your mic, Chase. All right, Chase going once. Chase going twice. Chase is gone. All right. Let me bring in the U.S. Freedman. U.S. Freedman, you got the microphone. Good morning. Unmute your microphone. You got the floor.
So where's my direction?
Good morning. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, you got the floor.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Hi, this is Annette from the U.S. Freedmen Project.
All right.
I am calling you today because we have an urgent legislative issue on the table in New York State. There's a reparations, quote unquote, reparations bill. I'm sorry for the background noise, but I'm driving. There's a quote unquote reparations bill on the table, which is flawed. It doesn't have the correct community of eligibility, and it's got some national organizations that are controlling the majority voting power on it. So we are trying to stop this bill today. The Senate session was extended one more day, and we feel it's because of this bill. So we have a call to action on our Twitter page. And we were wondering if people could just go in and call or tweet the legislators we have on the page to voice your opposition to the bill. The bill is S7215. It's in New York State, and basically anybody can comment on it. So we appreciate it if you would do that.
All right. Thank you so very, very much for that. Let me bring one more in. Let me bring Stolen Scepter in here. Stolen Scepter. You can now speak.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I just want to say I am, well, I'm Caucasian and I'm gay, and I can't believe that there's not more Caucasian people joining this cast. Um, because we're all in this together. It is right now we're at a fight for our general. Um, there's a very big chance that fascism could take over in our country. And I just really appreciate you, Chip. I followed you, and having this forum is terrific.
All right, I appreciate you. You know, when you talk about fascism, a lot of senses it already has taken over. You know, America always talks about other fascist, totalitarian nations and all of that. They talk about the human rights violations of China and North Korea and other places like that. But they have a hell of a nerve to talk about the violation of people's human rights when for 400 solid years they have continued to violate the rights of black people in this country.
Right.
You know, um, there have been cases filed at the Hague, you know, in the World Court against America for its violating the rights of black people, and that's often what others use against America when it has the nerve to try to be the moral voice of the world in condemning what's happening somewhere else.
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree with the caller, and I also agree with your response. And like I said, I'm trying to stay calm about it, but it's literally become a way of life for us now. It's like you can't even, like, the direction that this country is taking is so severe and so ugly. It's like it's very hard to, like, have joy. In other words, like, I remember on Saturday, when Tanisha got the nomination, everybody was ready to celebrate, and she was like, "Okay, tonight we celebrate, but tomorrow back to work." Because, like I said, our democracy is at stake. And although we live in Massachusetts, it's still, under attack. So don't be deceived. It's still under attack. And so she wants to work really hard to make sure that, at least from that perspective, as a Secretary of State right now, that Massachusetts doesn't participate with the government overall, in undermining democracy and undermining the philosophy of democracy. So,
David Jenkins, unmute your mic. You got the floor. Good morning, David. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say to the gentleman who called earlier, you had already addressed it, but fascism. There's this fascination in this country with fascism right now, to the point where never in my life before did I ever think that we would see Republicans pushing over Putin or anybody in that sort of regime. And the sad thing with this whole fascination with fascism right now is that American whites are flirting with this. They don't know really what they're getting into, but at the same time, they're flirting with this because he's willing to do and say the things that he wants to, and then the people in America liked when Trump was doing that, and now we're at a point where it's gotten to our legislators are afraid of the doggone monster they've created.
right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that he brought that up. I would have never thought it either. I mean, I knew that Trump was disgusting, But I would have never thought that we would like be flirting with people and in bed with people like a Putin, or whatever the case may be, and glorifying people like that. I never would have thought that in a million years. But then now, I'm looking at it. Trump is a Putin to everybody else, the rest of the world is looking at us going, what's happening in America?
Yeah, like y'all got a lot of nerve talking about
What is it?
them and
Like, leave us be, please. Don't put your judgments on us. We good. We all right. We like the way that we are over here.
as far as black people are concerned, America has always been fascist. You know,
Well, absolutely, absolutely. But I'm talking about the rest of the world. Period. I'm just talking about the rest of the world. I mean, it's other white countries that are even looking at us, going, okay, all right, whatever, America. Like, like, like people are not trying to get here like before. Trust me, they're not trying to get here like before. I mean, thank God in a sense for the technology that we have today, because the rest of the world can really see what's going on, in America, and they can go, maybe I'll run over here instead of there, as a refugee.
oh, there was
They're not seeking a refuge here anymore like they used to.
so
No.
the question was, I'm sure you saw that clip of Ted Cruz was commenting on the shooting in Uvalde, Texas, because it's from his state.
Please don't play it. Please
And
don't.
no, I'm not playing it, but no, he had to call Cassidy
I know.
question: if America is so bad, why are people flocking to come over here?
Mhm.
Um, well, when people are dealing with death and destruction in their nation on a daily basis, to come to America and risk a mass shooting, possibly, is probably, um, to them, a welcome change than possibly facing death on a daily basis. The other part to that is, when you're not a black person, when you're not part of what I call the crucified class, when you are from Poland or other parts of Europe, and your skin is white, you come to America, and because you're not going to be persecuted when you get here. So I understand full well, why people want to come to America for opportunity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But to equate that with saying that America is not as bad as it is in terms of the proliferation of guns and violence, and the pervasiveness of what you call white savagery and the brutality against black bodies, to pretend that doesn't exist simply because other people are trying to come here, is completely crazy.
Well, and also, the fact of the matter is that concept of come to America, we're welcoming you, and there's freedom here, there's liberation here, for you. Come to America. A historical. That's a historical viewpoint. In other words, you were people that were kicked out of, white Europeans were kicked out of their own country, and they came over here and killed up, well, part of what they did was they came over here and killed up, the natives, or whatever the case may be, to, start their own, or, supposedly to start their own, or whatever the case may be. But in that, though, the historical feedback was, new country, new start, all the immigrants should come here. This is the land of the free, the home of the brave, whatever. All of the stuff that's written in the Constitution and the national anthem, and whatever the case may be. So it really was, and it's been passed down for generations all over the world. If I'm in a hot spot, if I'm in a war torn country, if I'm in a state to where I am a refugee and I need safety and refuge, or whatever, I can go to America. That's what, that's what's been passed down for generations. I can go to America and find freedom there. I can, me and my family can be safe there and we can have a new start there in America. It's just that now, now we know the truth, kind of behind those sentiments and those ways of thinking. That's not necessarily true, is basically what I'm getting at. It's not necessarily true that if you go to America, you will find safety, you will find refuge, and you'll be able to have a new start. It should be true, but it's not necessarily true.
Well, I
It,
never
it's
forget.
like what you said is kind of based on where you're coming from.
I remember we were um we were coming back, I believe, from Costa Rica, and when we were getting off the plane, I think we were coming through Detroit, and we heard these white folks were on the same flight with us, who had said, "Oh, they were so happy to be back um, on American soil," and they were talking about. Um, no, it wasn't Costa Rica. We were coming back from the Dominican, and they were talking about violence in the Dominican because there had been a spate of crimes and stuff, and we stayed on the resort, etc. And it was just ironic to me, because I had looked up the stats in terms of gun violence, etc., in the Dominican, and I'm like saying to myself, "You got way more of a chance of getting shot here in Detroit than you did in the DR." But in people's psyche somewhere, they think America is this utopia in spite of
Yeah.
all of the ills that we face in this society. Like somehow, in spite of the rampant violence, in spite of the proliferation of guns, more guns than people, more mass shootings than anywhere else in the world, more people incarcerated than anywhere else in the world, but yet this American exceptionalism, they think that America is still somehow the promised land from anywhere else on the planet.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, I think it goes back to the passed down messaging that we've received about this country and again liberation, freedom, a chance for a new start, and all of that kind of stuff. It's kind of like what the Bible says, when but the people rather believe a lie than the truth, right? So we're force fed these lies a lot of times, and it's easier to believe them, especially if I am in close proximity to whiteness, right? Especially in this country, right? So, I can kind of, see myself living from this white privilege, standpoint, and also just kind of receiving all of those messages and taking them, as the truth. One of the things that I found out, how a lot of people will say black on black crime this and da 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 da, and you would think right through the messages that we've been hearing, especially ever since Obama was elected some years ago, or whatever, you would think that Chicago is like number one, right, in crime. You would think that, but
Mhm.
on a state level, when it comes to crime, it's a state that don't even have very many black folk at all. It's Alaska. It's like Alaska, and then I think Hawaii is like following, close in behind. And
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? Now, so
And contrary to popular belief, Chicago is not even the most violent city in America.
not even close.
Even though white folks always, that's their go-to thing. What about Chicago? What about Chicago? Every time we mention any type of state-sanctioned violence against black people, what, like when the whole time we're talking about Buffalo and the white supremacist manifesto and all of that. Chicago, that's a weekend in Chicago.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, because I don't want to dismiss any of the issues that that we have in our community, because we're too important to me for me to overlook anything that we got going on. But at the same time, let's get to the root of it. Let's get to the root of it. And like, you're not even willing to pass gun reform. You're not even willing to ban AR-15s. You're not even, so it's
Rifle.
like, shut up. Because the bottom line, a lot of these guns that even get into the hands of, gangbangers or anybody that's, misusing handguns or any kind of weapon in that way, they're not coming from black people. That's the bottom line. They're not coming from black people. They're coming from white folks. They're coming from, there's a whole underbelly. There's a whole economy when it comes, to guns.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're choosing your guns over humanity, right? Over humanity, lets me know that, again, it's white savagery that's ruling the day.
Yeah, guns are their god, and white supremacy is their
Guns
religion.
are their god. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Truth be told, you have the floor. Unmute your mic. Truth be told.
I'm loving these handles. Truth be told, what was it? U.S. Freedman.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
What's up, everybody?
We're doing well. How you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Just wanted to piggyback on your wife's, the first lady's, a lot of her messages. I've been saying for the longest, and not using that terminology of white supremacy, because to use that is to also say that they're supreme, and they're not. They're supreme in their dreams, because they're actually a lot of ignorance surrounding their belief systems and everything else. So I was really feeling her on that. The next thing is the grandmother, because it seems like the grandmother's in the house. The lady who said she was 63 years old and was talking. We're kind of all in that same boat. I'm 64. And actually waiting for my grandsons to get here. They were supposed to be here on the 4th, but there's this big old snafu with American Airlines and this big drama with them not even being here. They're supposed to be coming in today.
Okay.
Wow.
But they're 7 and 11 years old. And one thing that I think is drastically not, there needs to be more concern with as far as individually and our families, is making our history not a mystery to our kids. And they come here every summer from California. I'm in the Carolinas. I have a farm, I have animals, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, I want to come.
We are, pardon?
She said she wants to come.
I want to come.
You know what? We really have to talk, Bishop, on that, because I have my own shooting range and everything.
Oh.
I want to go. I want you too.
And you as well, First Lady.
No, we're not going to give her a gun. She might shoot the wrong people.
No. Now, let me say that my husband is a gun expert and also teaches shooting.
Okay.
Survivalist and all that kind of stuff. He is a black prepper.
All right.
But anyway, my grandkids are 7 and 11, and I have a whole itinerary plan for them as far as giving them Black history on their age level. One of the main places we're going to be visiting, they have an excellent museum for kids in that age group, is the Roanoke River. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
We just came back. I like going to places like that to just, a lot of people say it's really weird. Why would you want to go to places like that when so much devastation and atrocities occurred and things to that nature?
That's why.
I visit there, I could actually feel the ancestors there. That roar of the river, I felt them talking to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I get a spiritual experience from that. And so I have planned for them to, like I said, to go there, and we're gonna, because they still have they still have parts of the underground railroad there.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be breaking all that down to them, and like I said, feeding them, just making sure they eat at their level every year. I always, throughout the year, to me, Black History is not just no February and not just Martin Luther King. It spans way further than that, and that's the kind of things that I see them. And throughout the year, we have meetings every Saturday family meetings. And we have to come up with a Black figure that is not commonly known, and they have to have at least a paragraph on it.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I used to do too. I sure did. Raising my kids.
So,
I need to get back to it. I need to get back to it because we still have a 15-year-old in the house. So.
That's basically all I wanted to say. But I'm not just talking on that. What I just said to you, Bishop, about you and the First Lady coming through.
All right, all right.
Please give us your information because I would love a field trip down there.
I just followed you.
Yeah, just come for a weekend. Just get away from the hustle and bustle.
I just followed you back. Hit me in my inbox.
Okay, I will.
All right. Appreciate you.
Okay, have a great day, y'all.
You too.
All right, you too.
Thank you.
I really appreciated that call. I mean, basically, to a certain extent, she was telling us to, stay with the basics, keep with the basics because they go a long way. She just mentioned how, they have their family meetings every week. I push that as a therapist, for families that have their family meetings every week. That was something that we used to do. We don't do it as much anymore. We used to also have family night. We also had date night. Those are all things that I push for again as a therapist to bring families closer together. Listen,
and
we don't know how valuable it is, right?
Rival nights.
What is it? Oh, shut up, man. Anyway, we don't know how valuable it is to take every opportunity.
Shando, speak in tongues and stuff.
Anyway, we don't know how valuable it is to have those opportunities to speak to our grandmothers. In some cases, we're speaking, we're talking, in other words, and our great grandparents are still alive. And so one of the things that I get to cherish now, oh Lord, I didn't know I was gonna get emotional about it, but one of the things that I get to cherish now, because I was always a very inquisitive kid, and I had the kind of grandparents that would stop and answer all of my questions. So I used to always just kind of sit at my grandparents' bedside and, ask them things about school, ask them things about church, God, whatever, how they comb their hair, what they used in their hair, what kind of mom they had, what kind of, I mean, you name it. I was just that kind of kid. And I used to try to really push, and I still do. I try to push my kids to, make sure that when they're with their grandparents, that, that they take those opportunities and talk to them like that because it goes a long way in our spiritual development, and it also goes a long way in developing ultimately who we become and who we are and who we believe we are as people. So now I don't have any of my grandparents alive, and my parents are gone as well, as y'all know. But that's a lot of what's keeping me up is that I was that kind of kid. I enjoy talking to my mother. I enjoy talking to my grandparents, all of them. And so I have a whole lot of stuff still in me, from them. So, it's nothing like that. It's nothing more enriching. And Bishop, if we could be transparent, one of the things you and I have said to each other about our own children and we're not gonna, excuse ourselves, but it does kind of worry me a little bit to know how powerful it's been for me in my own life to have that kind of relationship with my parent, with my mother and my grandparents, to the point to where, now that they're no longer, well, they're ancestors now, that I still have so much of them with me and in me, from our interactions and from the way, the kind of relationship we had. And because I was so inquisitive, one of the things that concerns me and Bishop now about our own kids is that they seem not to, have that same curiosity, right? They don't even talk to us. I mean, we wonder if our kids even know what we do, what we're involved in. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and but you know what the exactly what the caller was talking about is is being very purposeful about our young people knowing our history because it gets lost otherwise,
yeah, it does.
and they have to
It's
take.
not in the books. It's not in the books. You got to talk to your family. You got to know it for yourself and pass it down to your children.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let me see if I can get a couple more people on before we get out. Let me. Y'all names are killing me. Somebody is Mooch Brown.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, Angela. Hey, Mark. Hey, everybody. Hey, I'm Mother Green.
Mooch Brown, you're in the house.
Hey, what's up, Bishop? Thank you for having me.
How you doing?
I was definitely laughing about your tweet about white evangelicals the other day. It was extremely funny,
Oh yeah, but true.
very true.
Yeah,
very true. White evangelicals I can't talk to them.
yeah.
They could be the most racist people
Yeah,
on the face of the planet. But I just had a comment about what you think about Virginia versus Lovegreen, and if that's overturned, how you feel. Because there'd be a lot of outrage with a lot of interracial couples going on. But to each his own. But that's not for me. But you know,
yeah. Now, what one of the callers was talking about, um, the premise of a number of the Supreme Court rulings, had the same premise. Those who don't know, uh, um, Loving versus Virginia was a civil rights decision of the Supreme Court, where the court ruled that laws banning interracial marriage violate the equal protection and due process clause of the 14th Amendment. And there were a number of states that basically banned interracial marriage. And once again, with this Supreme Court, you don't know what direction this goes. And this is what I keep telling people. They keep acting like there's some line in the sand that this court won't cross. I don't believe there's a line that this court won't cross. Once it said, you know what, innocent people can be killed by the state. We don't care about that.
Yeah.
That let me know
That's crazy.
there's no line in the sand of what they won't cross. So I completely believe that they could very well, overturn that case and say, hey, let the individual states decide whether or not interracial marriage should be legal in their state. I could full well see this court doing something like that, just like I can see it saying that the 13th Amendment is unconstitutional. I don't think that. To me, what's reprehensible to me is this last ruling of the court. If you're talking about something that should have sparked nationwide outrage, the Supreme Court saying innocent people can be put to death. Where the hell are all these liberals?
Right.
Where are all of these resistors?
Where they at?
Who claim that they are our allies and all that stuff, when they know that the people most likely to be wrongfully convicted look like us, and they're saying they're saying they're okay with the Supreme Court saying, yeah, you can incarcerate these folk, you can kill these folk, whether they're or not. We ought to be out in the streets right now. So
yes, we do.
I don't trust.
It wasn't even mentioned at the convention. It wasn't even mentioned.
I don't trust.
What is going on? What is going on? It's crazy.
I don't trust white liberals. None of them, because I mean, the streets should be flooded right now. But brother, you make a good point.
The streets should be flooded worse than it was when Mr. Floyd.
Absolutely.
When Mr. Floyd was like, we should be.
Well, that's not too long ago. That was what, 1964?
Right. Exactly.
That's not even that long ago.
I was born in 1967, baby, so it wasn't that long ago. It was not.
You're exactly right. That's not ancient.
I thought it was in 1967 too, because I thought that was a case that I followed, and I remembered that it was in the year. It was overturned in the year that I was born.
Yeah, it was in the 60s.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, brother. Mooch Brown. Good point you brought up. Let me see. It's 11:01.
What Miss Brenda wrote, because I like what she said and I like how she said it. She said these white people are using the white supremacy ideology, and we're going to say white savagery ideology, to embolden the Supreme Court to pass laws that restrict or deny the human rights of other Americans. This is shameful. It absolutely is. And we ought to be hot. We ought to be mad. We ought to be mad. We ought to be mad.
Let me get a couple more. And y'all got to speak quickly now. If I bring y'all up, I know I got quite a few of y'all trying to get on. Truth Ali, you've been waiting for a minute. Let me bring you up. Truth. A lot of truth up in here. Truth be told. Truth Ali. Truth this, truth that.
I need to change my name to Talbert Swan.
Yeah. Truth. You got the microphone. Unmute your mic. All right, now I got folk calling at the last minute.
Absolutely right. I'm devastated and I'm angry.
Truth.
Very angry.
Are you there, Truth?
Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you. Hold on, caller on the phone. Just a moment. I got my Twitter space on. Go ahead, Truth.
Good morning. All right, I just want to say good morning to y'all. Hold on, wait. Everybody's doing well.
I wanted to bless the
phone caller. Hold up.
I want to say hello to you.
Okay, he didn't hear me. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Truth. Go right ahead.
All right, I hope everybody's doing well this morning. I come in love and peace for everybody. I want to share that to everybody. I have a question to ask, and this is for you, Bishop. First of all, thank you for having this space. I have a real quick question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just me, or does anybody see that after those 10 beautiful brothers and sisters got murdered in Buffalo, and this current president that we have wound up having an Asian pop group come there to the White House, and the White House spokeswoman was laughing, geeking and ha-ha with these people and everything.
Yeah.
And and a couple of days later, they asked her about
reparations, right?
And you see her face frowned up, and she had this. It was like this disdain, and everything, and I was just like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And the other article that really got my blood boiling was those 10 people that got murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And God bless their soul. I feel so sorry for them that they didn't have some brothers out there that tapped this savage up. But I say that to say this. Because that man had mentioned something anti-Semitic in his manifesto, they put out a crime,
a resolution,
anti-Jewish
resolution
bill, but it was black people that got murdered.
Yeah. So
my question to everybody is, I would think that regular folks would find this thing, this situation, make them angry.
Yeah.
But my thing is, how do the people that voted for Biden in this administration feel?
Yeah. So here's my thing. A complete agreement, and I've been beating this drum, and all of and so people know that during the whole Trump administration, I was on their behind, and so now I get accused of being a Republican operative because I'm on the behind of the Democrats. So what the brother is saying is fact. Here's what happened: 10 black people get murdered. Okay, he mentioned in his manifesto something about the Jews. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a congresswoman, a Jewish congresswoman, check out the chronology. They get murdered on the 14th. Debbie Wasserman Schultz files an anti-Jewish hate resolution with the House of Representatives on the 17th, 3 days after the Buffalo massacre. It goes to a vote on the 18th, 4 days after the massacre. The House passes it 420 to 1. There was one Republican that voted against it. 420 all voted for it. Now here we are, 4 days after 10 black people get murdered, and the Congress is talking about, let's stop anti-Semitism. Then the president has the K-pop group come to the White House to talk about anti-Asian hate. Then when someone asks the spokesperson, the press secretary, a question about reparations, her eyes start bucking, and she starts talking about how the president's position hasn't changed. He's in support of a bill to study reparations. Now we can give $50 billion to Ukraine. We can give $4 billion a year to Israel to fund apartheid in Israel and all of that. But he just wants to study reparations. And then when we call into question this administration for its apathetic response to the needs of black people, we get accused of being Republican. No, I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I'm pro-black. Period. That's my stance, and I think we have every right to be completely any party.
I agree.
You give 95% of your votes to, you got the hell of a right to call them into question. Appreciate you, brother,
and hold them accountable.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you ought to hold them accountable. I wish I had time to get all of y'all on here. I don't. Well. Let me do one more. Let me see if I get chance. I can't do you because you ain't got no picture. I don't mess with y'all. I don't mess.
Babe, I just want to remind you of something before you go to the next call.
Go ahead.
There was a young lady that called in earlier to say that there is a bill that they're trying to get signed. I believe it was to study the reparations, and that's fine. That's fine. I'm just saying to study the reparations. So that ain't even passed yet.
Okay, so she was talking about, so what we're talking about, there's a House bill that's been out for a while about studying reparations. That's what all the Democrats campaigned on, saying they were in support of. They never said they were in support of reparations.
Was she talking about something different?
He was talking about something different in the state of New York. A reparations bill that they are against because they are classifying the people who get reparations as folks, as not just the descendants of slave Africans. You know how civil rights is now.
I get it.
It's about black people and white women and Asians and gays and one-legged folk and hunchbacks. Well, basically, they're trying to now water down reparations. So it's, black people aren't the only people who deserve reparations. We ought to give Native Americans reparations. We ought to give the Irish reparations. We ought to give. So that's what she's saying. She's saying we're opposing this New York bill because we're not classifying the right people to get reparations.
Anytime it's specific for black folks.
Right. They want to lump everybody else up in the mix.
It's very easy. 4 days, the anti-Semitism, bill signed 4 days.
4 days after the Buffalo, and there still has not been an anti-black hate resolution even presented.
Well, we can't even we can't even be whole humans in the Constitution, or we can't even be freed, in the Constitution. So I mean, we can't get nothing.
Mark Stevenson, you are the final speaker. Unmute your mic, bro. You got the floor.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing this morning, Bishop?
Doing well.
First lady, how you doing? To the entire family that's listening in. I just wanted to kind of piggyback off the bug that just and really, you and I have been going back and forth with these people on Twitter in regards to this neglect that's been going on with the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime black people decide that they want to start questioning the actions of the leaders that we elected, the first thing they off to say, you must be a Trump supporter or you're a Republican.
Yep. Anytime you criticize them. Yep.
As if black folks, we can't critically think.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody, if we look at, I charge all black people. When I'm out and about in the community talking about legislation, we got to start paying attention to bills that are being signed on the local level, state level, and national level.
That's right, baby.
It really, really affects our community because we can't be out here championing legislation for white folks. Because they're not out here championing legislation for us.
Talk about it.
We can't keep allowing this oppression Olympics to go on.
Right.
Everybody lumped into our justice claims.
Right.
Or legislation.
There you go. We have a unique justice claim that no one else has in America. And you're absolutely correct. Every single time we bring up our justice claim, everybody and their mama wants to say, what about us? What about us?
Well, one of the things that we understand now, or we should, if we've been in this thing long enough, we ought to understand this one immutable fact, that when you do right by the least, when you do right by the most oppressed, when you do right by the most marginalized, when you do right by the most disenfranchised, everybody is elevated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody is elevated. You don't miss nobody when you do right by the most. When you do right by the most. So, that's just the fact of the matter. And we are that group. Black folks are the most oppressed group in the world.
Across the diaspora. And definitely here in these yet to be United States of America. All right, people. It's been interesting morning. A lot of good commentary on the subject matter. Want to invite you all to the Spring of Hope Church of God in Christ. You can check us out on Sundays at 11 o'clock a.m. Prayer, praise, and preaching up in the building. A lot of good things that are going on. And so we want you to become a part of it. Also want to invite you to become a member of the Greater Springfield NAACP. We meet on the fourth Tuesday of the month. So, come and join us. This will be our last one for the summer in June. We break for July and August, so y'all can get your sunshine on and all that kind of good stuff. So we're gonna move out, and next week, Lord willing, same time, same bat station, Justice and Flow at 10 a.m.
Garden Saturday at 4 o'clock.
Say
Garden Queens. I'm sorry, Garden Queens.
okay.
I said it backwards.
All
Garden
right.
Queens, Saturday at 4 o'clock at the church. Yay!
Oh, until the next time we talk to you and you talk to us, always remember God loves you. So do we.
Love
Peace.
y'all more. Love y'all. Love you, Angela.